All right, so as important as programming is in our training, I think all of programming actually goes out the window if you don't have a base of what I'm going to talk about in this video. There's a few different things that I want to go over, and the first thing is going to be that you can't just rely on these tangible factors of your mindset. Mindset's going to be the biggest thing in your training, and that's what dictates your results. And I'll touch on how programming ties in that on the final point of this video, but we hear all these things tossed around with programming and RPE, RIR, volume, etc. But all of that goes out the window if you don't have the mindset down. And mindset's tough because there's a lot of it that isn't tangible. And yeah, are there parts of it that are tangible? 100%. But a lot of those you can teach, but the things that you can teach in words from me to you aren't going to create that fire and that drive that actually gets you to where you want to be. And this will all make sense at the end. I know it's a little confusing right now, but you see something like discipline or motivation, and sure, you can build some of this stuff up, but that's not, to me, that's not what training is. When I hear the word discipline, it's super useful and you should strive to become more disciplined. But when I hear the word discipline, I think of cleaning when I don't want to, or waking up for work when I am tired. It's things like this. It's mundane tasks that just need to get done, and it takes discipline to get those done. In my mind, that's what discipline is. When it comes to getting the best possible results out of your training, because this is what that video is about. This video is about how I made the most possible progress that I could. I'm thinking back to the times of my training where I was just ruthless and it was my highest priority and I was making the best results that I ever possibly have. And I think it goes beyond things like discipline or motivation. It literally, you have to become ruthless and you have to go after a certain goal. So I think it's more than just going through the motions and getting it done and showing up. It's becoming so ruthless and so set after that specific goal that you just crush through life with everything else in the peripherals and you absolutely dominate your training. And it's not tangible, and that's the tough part to get across to you guys. The first point that I want to make here to build off the intro is that what made me successful as a lifter, especially in these times, like I'm thinking back to summer of 2018 is when I made some of my best gains. And we all go through phases where we have to kind of adapt our training. And yeah, we go through phases where our mindset isn't at 100%, and that's totally normal. I still go through that. Most people do. But I'm looking back to these times, and back in that summer of 2018, like, man, I was just crushing my training. And I'm not talking just pushing harder or going from RPE 8 to 9 in these little nitpicky programming things. I'm talking like my life revolved around training. Training was the centerpiece, and that's all that I cared about. It didn't matter what needed to be done. I needed to do what needed to be done to make the gym happen and absolutely crush my workouts. Like, I'm talking 2-hour, maybe 2.5-hour workouts, staying until the gym literally closed. Sometimes I'd beg the staff to let me stay for an extra 5 or 10 minutes just to finish up my last few sets. It's things like this. And is that extreme? Maybe a little bit, but when you're in that mindset, it seems pretty normal, and you're just so locked in. And I think we should all strive to get to that point by building a certain goal, whether that's a certain goal physique that you have, or just something as simple as like the new AI art that we're all doing. I just did mine like a week ago. I'm probably gonna use it as the thumbnail for this video. Like, that's your face, obviously sharpened up and everything, but you can put that like on a jacked AI physique that could be your future self. Obviously, some of them, there's a spectrum. Some of them are just unrealistic, but some of them are tangible. And to see your face on a jacked physique like that, not gonna lie, that pumped me up when I saw it. And that just kind of re-sparked some of that motivation when I did that last week. And when you have this ruthless goal, your training just takes over and it happens no matter what. There's no way around it. You no longer have to worry about anything else because you're just so zoned in and you're so locked in. So to be in a mindset like that, where training's truly going to be a priority for you, like, make training a priority. Make that happen. Build up that mindset. And I'm not saying that training's going to be a priority forever, but try that out for a summer or a few months. Like, how many of you guys are just so busy this winter where you can't make training a priority? Like, go for it. Set some goals. Have a goal physique. Like, have a goal measurement, whatever it is. Set that and then just go ruthlessly after it. And if you commit to that for a few months and just revolve your entire life around that actual goal and that training, you'll look back in the future on that period of time and realize how motivating that is and how capable you are of actually going above and beyond and kind of breaking through what the mindset is. And again, I apologize, this stuff isn't very tangible, but I'm trying to speak with passion and tap into that mindset that I had back in 2018. And I wish it was more tangible than it is. That's the only thing. Number 2, the next thing that made me successful as a lifter was I used training as a tool to build my identity around those desired characteristics that I had. So you look at myself as a younger guy, and you're kind of wandering around life. You're kind of clueless, and I know everybody kind of goes through this. So I think it's relatable here. You have certain traits and characteristics that you just innately want to develop as a person. And for me, that was the first one's just being the best at what I was doing. And I'm lucky to have that as an innate desire, but that doesn't mean it can't slip away. So me keeping that in touch is going to be an important thing. And for me, in that mindset, the tough part about not being the best at what I was doing is that if I'm going to take pride in lifting in my physique and bodybuilding, how am I going to let someone be better than me? I had a hard time sitting back and being proud of myself and being fulfilled and satisfied if someone was better than me. If I knew I could do more, like, why would I be so confident and proud on something when someone else is right next to me just absolutely crushing me? And this is obviously a nuanced conversation, but if I had left effort and ruthlessness on the table and let that person surpass me, why would I put all this effort into being second place, is what I'm trying to say here. There's no reason for me to leave that on the table. If I'm going all out and I'm committing, I'm going to be fully committed to it. And once you can break out of that shell and go out there and do it, that's when those boundaries start to come down, and that's when you just go out and you make things happen. And that's how I viewed training back then. So many of us are just confined and reserved in our training. You don't want to be like that. You want to go out. You want to push things hard. You want to go above and beyond. Forget about the science for a second. It doesn't matter. Focus on, and again, this will tie in at the end, focus on going as hard as you possibly can. Train on your instincts to start, and then programming comes in later. Train on your instincts, learn whatever you can, continue to learn, but your focus should be building your mindset and building that resilience and that ruthlessness that actually gets you those results. Another characteristic that I wanted to develop was just overall mental toughness. There's something satisfying and fulfilling about just being tough and knowing you can do anything. And I'm not saying you have to go do everything that's challenging out there, because that's just not realistic. But when you conquer something like training and the results show for it, there's something just crazy about that builds that mindset, and they continually feed off each other, and it just keeps getting better and better, and you become a stronger and tougher person. The harder you train, the tougher you become, obviously physically, but mentally too. And stuff like this is what helps to fulfill that mindset. And when you can tap into that, you're just ahead of everybody else and you're in the zone. And I'm not trying to make this to be a whole competition thing, but when you can go from the everyday mindset, going through the motions, maybe you're disciplined, but then you can go into that next level, it's just something else. And we all know the lifters. We all know the people that train this way, and the results show for it. And training now becomes such a fulfilling thing in your life. It just opens your eyes to so many more things, and it turns you into that person that you want to become. And you look at myself, and it's like, yeah, did I become this person that I am now purely through lifting? I don't really know, and there's no way to tell. But I do think that would be kind of absurd to say that I'd be this exact person that I am now if I never picked up training. I'm looking back to these old videos of myself training and talking about my training back when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, and I was so shy and reserved and quiet and awkward, and I wasn't quite going out and making it happen. And then it was when I turned like 19 or 20, back in that summer I was talking about, I made it happen. I tapped into the mindset, and I was just incredibly ruthless with my training. I went out, I got the results, and I made it happen. And I just morphed into an entire new person. And I don't think that's just me getting older and becoming an adult. I think I forced that to happen through training. I went from a boy to a man in that summer, and that's what taught me all of these characteristics that I've developed and I'm still continuing to develop. I'm not perfect. It's a lifelong pursuit, and I don't think I will ever be perfect or anybody else will ever be perfect, but the journey and being in pursuit of those characteristics and that physique, that's what makes things happen, and that's what changes who you are as a person and your mindset. This stuff is so important. And number 3, you want to beat the competition that's in front of you. Whether you're someone that's perfectly satisfied just competing with yourself, which I would probably argue a little bit against. I think you need to compete with some other people at some point. You want to compete with them until you're the best. And once you're better than them, then find a new group to compete with. And this has happened with myself. I've had a bunch of different training partners in the past. I've been the biggest guy in the gym before, and then I went to a new gym, and I'm competing with those people now. It's a good thing to grow out of your small pond and get into a bigger lake. And this is what causes you to grow as a person. And eventually you can just keep leveling up through that. And now, yeah, I've created this new like friendly competition, and it's the other noble natties on YouTube. It's the people that are also natural. And this is good competition for me. And this is causing me to keep growing my physique. When I'm competing against people that have 15-inch arms, then I have 16-inch arms, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. But now I go on YouTube and I'm looking at these noble natties that have 18 and a half inch arms, and now it's like, well, shit, I still have an inch, 2 inches to gain if I want to get to their level and pass them. And it's creating these new possibilities. And at this point, it doesn't even matter what the science says I can get to or what the natural limit is. Like, stuff like this just goes out the window. Genetics go out the window. If you're concerned about genetics, natural limit, this kind of stuff, you're not in that right mindset. Because if you're in that right mindset, in that ruthless mindset, as I like to call it, you don't even think about this kind of stuff because you're so far beyond that. And that's what you have to tap into, as I'm going to keep saying here. So compete with people, compete with others, compete with yourself, set goals, beat those goals, and then set more goals. Find new competition, keep growing, and just, like I said 1,000 times, just be absolutely ruthless, go out and make it happen. And to tie all of this together, this is the final point that makes it all make sense. So programming is a foundation. It's a staple to my training philosophy in this channel, as we all know. But with that, my ultimate philosophy with programming is that programming should be a way for you to control and manage that ruthless mindset that you already have. Because if you're just a wrecking ball going through the gym, you're going to either hurt yourself or you're going to build up so much fatigue that you can't continue on, and it's a very short-sighted thing. So once you can prove to yourself that you can overtrain and fatigue yourself or potentially work your way up towards a nagging pain or injury, and once you've made the progress and you know for a fact that you have that mindset, now this is where programming comes into play to manage that, so your mindset doesn't take advantage of you and push you too far over the edge. And that's where the magic of programming truly comes into play. We can debate all these things like frequency and volume and whatever, but if you're not actually going all out, that stuff isn't that important, just to be frank. You have to have that mindset that I've talked about throughout this video, and then you have to learn to control it. So I know we've all kind of heard that quote, like, you have to, being a weak man or being a weak person doesn't mean you're a good person. You have to be that dangerous person and then learn how to control it. And that quote, it just clicked in my head today, applies perfectly to training. You can't just be a disciplined, kind of quiet and like introverted type lifter, and that doesn't necessarily make you a good lifter. Can you get progress training like that? For sure, but that doesn't make you good just because you can control everything and you know what your RPEs are and stuff like this. At a certain point, you just have to kind of see beyond that and go all out, leave it all on the table, and then learn how to manage it. Because when you don't cause fatigue and you don't cause these potential injuries or overuse injuries or whatever, and you don't cause all of these problems to come up in your training, now you have nothing to manage and programming isn't as important. But when you create the necessity for programming to apply in your training, that's when the magic of programming comes in, because now you have this ruthless mindset and you've manipulated it and you've programmed it to give you the best results possible. And that's when programming can boost you beyond just that all out. You see these people that train all out and they have the mindset down, but they don't understand programming. Once you have that mindset and you learn how to program to to milk everything you can out of that mindset and let you continue with that forever, that's the secret of hypertrophy training. Build that mindset and then learn as much as you can about programming and learn about yourself too, because everybody's a little bit different. So that's all I've got for the video today. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys in 2 to 3, maybe 4 days. We'll see.